Welcome to Mark My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Mark My Words. This episode is sponsored by GrowX Labs. Let's be real, leading a business is lonely. When the big decisions land on your desk, who do you actually talk to? That's where GrowX Labs comes in. Their executive decision support gives founders and execs direct access to a strategic sounding board. Someone who's been in the trenches and knows how to cut through the noise. Whether it's team tension, high-stakes moves, or just needing to talk it out, GrowX helps you move forward with clarity and confidence. Head to growxlabs.com/Mark. That's GRWX labs.com/Mark and book your discovery call. So back in 2016, I was in the middle of a lot of life changes, one of which was the fact that I wanted to get married to my wife and I wanted to propose to her, and I had a really great idea for how to do it and where to do it. We're both huge baseball fans. That's like something that we bonded on. We actually wound up getting married at a baseball stadium, and that whole day, that weekend, marvelous. Now, I had something in my mind as far as like how I wanted to propose to my wife, and everything pretty much didn't go the way I wanted it to. My actual proposal was terrible. It was almost like a Three's Company episode, frankly, the whole scene. We had a wonderful day at the baseball stadium. We had delicious, awesome dinner at one of our favorite restaurants, which is no longer there. It's called Lydia's. If you've ever been to it, there's only a few locations anymore, but I had a whole idea and plan. My wife, with her work schedule, she kept flip-flopping on our plans, and I'm like, do I propose? Do I not propose? And I remember sitting at our dinner table saying, I was thinking about proposing, but because of all of the muffed plans, I don't know if I am. And she was like, are you kidding me right now? So I basically sat there as the waiters kept interrupting and interjecting with our food and, asking as I'm trying to like talk to her about this and essentially propose. I was like, oh man, like I know I want to propose anyway. So, this goes contrary to my guest today, Ash Fox, who, if you go to her YouTube and you check out some of her content, she has a couple videos just focusing on the whole process of kneeling down, like you should kneel to propose. That is not something that I did until a week or two later when I finally got the ring that I was trying to get from her aunt, and it just all got messed up. But my wife and I, we still joke about the proposal because I wound up just saying after everything was all said and done, I was like, I don't know, do you wanna? And that is not exactly a romantic or inspiring proposal. It's not what I had in mind. And I sure could have used somebody like Ash Fox 9 years ago when I was proposing to my wife. She is a marriage proposal planner and a photographer as well. And I am really fascinated by what she does. And there is actually a very important caption here that I want to read because so she is the founder of Ashbox Proposal, one of the first marriage proposal planning companies in the world. She has done over 3,000, she's helped over 3,000 couples and she is here on Mark My Words. I'm finally gonna let Ash talk. Welcome to Mark My Words. How you doing today, Ash?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for sharing your proposal story. And I admire your vulnerability in sharing that story because sometimes people are shy to share their proposal stories. But you know what? You had good intent, and you guys clearly have been together for 10 years, so you must have done something right. But I hear you. It is helpful to have a planner, especially for what you said about how. One mistake I sometimes see men make is that their partner is kind of giving them sometimes a hard time about the schedule of like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And sometimes it really takes being really firm. And sometimes guys don't want to because they're like, I don't want to start a fight. I don't want to have an issue with her, especially with something so romantic like this. And I kind of tell them like, it's almost better that you have a fight and you're just like, babe, this is what we're doing. We're going here. You got to be ready. We're going. And have her even be like, why is he so like firm about this? Because it's worth it in the end when she's so surprised and so happy, even if she felt like he dragged her somewhere. So anyway, just wanted to share that.
No, that is great advice. And it wasn't even that I was dragging her anywhere because we went to a place that we love. We love Pittsburgh. We love going to the
Oh,
stadium in
yeah.
Pittsburgh, PNC Park in particular. And we always have a great time there. Lydia's, when it was there, was like a great place for us to go for a meal whenever we went up there. Absolutely delicious. There's only a few locations around the country, and if you're ever lucky enough to go to Olivia's, you should definitely go. Not that they are a sponsor of this show. I'm really plugging the hell out of them, but I love Lydia's. It's been a long time.
What kind of food? Italian food or?
Yeah, it's like Italian food, so it's for and created by the famous chef. I can't remember her last name. I just know her first name is spelled Lidia instead of like
Mhm.
Lydia, and she has a lot of like cookbooks for those who
Oh,
still read actual books. She has a lot of cookbooks out there, and the food is just outstanding. We went to one in Kansas City on one of our baseball trips, and we may or may not have gone in New York. I know there's at least one location up there, but this is getting like way, way off topic. But to your point, like there was a lot of stress with the proposal and getting the ring because I wanted to get her okay so I could drive up to Long Island, get her like grandma's ring so that I had it and I could do like a real awesome proposal. And instead, there's a joke about, I don't know, do you wanna? And I'm like, that is not the way I wanted it to go. So,
well, I don't want to interrupt you, Mark,
yeah,
but the
you're
one thing
good.
I'll tell you, and you can hide this episode from her if you want, but the one thing I'll tell you is that actually I have a lot of men that I work with who repropose, who actually have been with their wives for could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, it could be 30 years. And they're like, babe, you know what? The first time around didn't really go the way I wanted it to, or I didn't have the resources then, or couldn't get you the ring you wanted, or whatever. And they do a reproposal actually. And sometimes they get a new ring or they upgrade it. So just something to think about maybe at some point if you wanted to.
Oh, you're good. That's actually like a really good idea. I could take you up on that idea at some point. I probably should. I don't know if it's ever gonna replace the I don't know, do you wanna? But I mean, I definitely feel like a real spontaneous do-over could be potentially awesome, and I'm sure she would appreciate it. Uh, and yeah, I don't hide anything. I'm sure if my wife ever gets the you know the urge to listen to my show when this episode comes out, I mean, I'm sure she knows that I'm thinking about something. I'm always thinking about something, but let's think a little bit about you and your path because that is actually one of the big reasons that we are here is to talk a little bit about your journey. And I'm really fascinated by just the fact that you went to NYU. I don't know if you were already in New York or if you wanted to become a photographer. When you were growing up, did you ever imagine just, I need to work for myself in some capacity? Did you know you wanted to start off as a photographer? How did you wind up at NYU?
So I grew up in New Jersey and I definitely was always a creative person. I was an artistic person. I was an artist at heart. It's my dog, by the way. He's with me. Um, and I knew I wanted to go to NYU because my grandma lived in New York. And whenever I was in New York, I just felt like people got to be whoever they wanted to be. They got to feel like you really could be anything you wanted to be. Like you would always see some very eccentric person on the street or multiple eccentric people on the street. And it just was a very joyful, artistic, inspiring place to me. So I knew I wanted to live there. And then my goal for myself, for my career, was always that I just wanted to be able to make a living doing something creative where I could use my hands in some capacity. And so I ended up in high school just really wanting to go to NYU. It was my only school that I applied to. Actually, I applied the early decision because I just knew I wanted to be in New York. And I got in and I was an art major. So I studied art and I was making art. And it was kind of a weird little program where there was only 50 people in the program, and so they were really like grooming us to become real artists that show around the world. And the more that I was in this program, the more I was like, well, I'm learning some skills here and there, and I'd like to apply them to commercial pursuits. And the school was very against that, but I was on the weekends and during the summertime, like really hustling all these different creative pursuits. But photography was not one of them. And after school, I graduated and I was like, what am I going to do? And I talked to my dad and he was like, you've been hustling this whole time through college, like doing all kinds of odd jobs and freelance work. I would just keep that going and just see where it leads. And so next thing you know, I just started getting asked to do, well, I'll slow down a little bit. So what ended up happening was one of my best friends, he was doing a lot of photo shoots. He was a musician and he was doing photo shoots with some really amazing prominent photographers. And they were quite expensive, these photo shoots, I remember. And we had a conversation. I just was like, you know what? What if you just bought, instead of investing in the next shoot, just bought a really nice camera? We'll figure out how to use it together. I can take pictures of you. And that's what we did. We just like, he got this camera, we played around. And then he ended up being like, hey, want to come on tour with me for this like music tour I'm doing? And I was like, okay. And like the camera was just on automatic. And that's how I sort of learned I learned a lot about timing. Like, when someone's on stage, a stage performer, a lot of it's like timing, catching them when they're not overly straining their face or when they're not overly, or sometimes when they are, because it makes for a good picture. And when they're not blocking something or, when there's it's hard to describe, but it's a lot, it's almost like jazz. Like you're kind of filling in the moments. You feel like you're a part of the music in a way, even though you're just photographing it. But I learned a lot about photography just from doing it. And I did, like I said, I just had an automatic camera that was not even mine. I was playing around with it, so I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned on the job. And then simultaneously, around the same, like I said, around the same time, another friend was starting this really cool rock and roll party in New York. And he ended up hiring me as a dancer for this party. Crazy, crazy origin story, right? It was one of my first little jobs that I did. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll dance at this rock and roll party. And 1 month into doing it, I there was a girl who was the photographer for the party and she was leaving. And I said to the DJ who was running the party, I'm like, I could be the photographer for this party. And he's like, you know what, you're on. And he gave me his camera. So again, I didn't even own my own camera. I started this whole thing just by borrowing other people's cameras. And I ended up photographing this party. The party ended up getting to be in a lot of magazines. It was written about. It was a really cool party with a lot of like cool musicians there. And that's how I learned. And as I really learned, like I said, on the job. And so through this job, it gave me, I mean, I got so much out of this job because for one thing, I didn't really have a path in life at this point. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I pretty much knew that I wasn't going to be that artist who shows around the world. I kind of like gave up on that dream a little bit, only because it seemed so far away. And so I was trying to see what's immediate, what can I do now? But when I found this photography thing and it just started, I was getting a good response from people. You know, it was the early days of Facebook and people were using my picture as their profile picture, like after one of the nights of those part at that party. And I would see the pictures, like everyone's picture turned into my pictures. And I was like, wow, that really is a compliment because if they like the picture enough to use it as their Facebook profile picture, that must mean that I'm onto something here. So I was doing this, you know, nightlife and rock and roll photography and getting other opportunities. And I really thought, hey, I think this is what I'm going to do. Maybe I'm going to work from one of these publications. And what ended up happening was things just changed in that scene at the time. It was like this cool rock and roll revival scene. And I ended up getting a job as one of my jobs, like weekly jobs with this same DJ at just like a regular club, like regular nightclub. And I was doing this, I was up really late at night and I just was miserable. I'm like, this is not the cool scene that I was a part of. This is a completely different crowd. People are inebriated and really not conscious of what's going on. I once got like hit in the face by some girl. I was dealing with the manager trying to get my check at the end of the night and him giving me a hard time. I'm like, I don't want to be here. You know, there's got to be more for me. And so I ended up again. Really fortunate that I'm really fortunate that I've had parents that are very supportive of the arts and my creativity and who believed in me because listen, they sometimes it is scary to have children who are going off doing things that are not traditional and not knowing where it's going to go. And really, my parents trusted me. They really did. They like knew that I was very driven. They knew that I was in these strange spaces, but for the right reasons. You know, like I was in this and no offense to people who dabble and try drugs and all kinds of things, but it just wasn't my thing. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing drugs. And so it was kind of, I was very straight, like, I'm going to make a career of this. Anyway, what ended up happening was he said to me, he's like, listen, you got to get out of this world because you're not happy. You're up till 4 a.m. And why don't you just do, you know, family events like bar mitzvahs, baptisms, weddings? I'm like, Dad, I don't want to be a sellout. I'm like, that's not cool. You know, like I see you got like some great rock records behind you. Like I was more into all of that. And but anyway, I really reached my desperation point and I'm like, no, you're right. You know what? I'm willing to try it. So I started doing it, started doing family events, all kinds of I did corporate events, I did all kinds of things. And in that time, one day, I think this was like 2012 or so. I haven't like pinpointed the year, but I think it was 2012. I got an inquiry for me to photograph someone's proposal. And back then, people did not have photos of their proposal. Like, this is actually something that has only really been something that people have done for the past like maybe 15 years. And that's like the beginning of my career, like beginning of me doing this. And I'm not saying I'm the first one ever, but it was really early days. And so I end up doing this proposal. So funny. It was on the lake in Central Park, which is this like sprawling park in New York, very iconic. And the guy was, he told me he's going to propose in a rowboat on the lake by this bridge. And so he, I was stationed in this little hut and I had my long telephoto lens and I was kind of like a little spy waiting for that moment for him to, wheel his, row his little rowboat up to the bridge. All he told me was that she's blonde, he's blonde, she's in a green dress, he's in a blue shirt. He rolls up and I'm in my little hut waiting. And obviously, I can't really move much because he's in the water. There's not really a lot of space for me to like get around him. Turns out he turns the boat in the wrong direction at the moment when he's about to propose. And I was so upset. I'm like, you can't see her face, and I can't swim because you can't do that. And anyway, they come out and they're so happy. And I told them what happened, and they didn't care. They're just like, you got the moment. It's beautiful. We're so happy. And I watched them and I said to myself, you know what? This really is so special because it's such an intimate moment. It's so different from a wedding. And in that point, I had been doing weddings. So I saw kind of how, this is really just about the purity of this question that he's asking her and this commitment they're making to each other, which is very profound. And it's very different than the wedding because when with the wedding, there's higher stake. There's already, it's kind of like a party, right? And it's a little performative because the family's watching, friends are watching. But the proposal is really just the two of you, and it's like you're making a pledge to each other. So I loved it. And crazy enough, 1 week later, a woman contacts me and she's a mom and she wants to plan a proposal for her son and wants me to photograph it. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, I'm getting these signs from, I don't know, signs that something here, I've got something here. And I do this proposal for her. And afterwards, she tells me, she's like, you don't understand. Like, you helped our family so much. Like, he couldn't have done this without you because he proposed on the lake in Central Park too. And so I was able to tell him exactly what to do, not to turn the boat in the wrong direction. And it was really cool. And so then after that, um, things just started like domino effect. I kept on getting asked to do more. I kept on refining my process because, listen, it sounds very straightforward. However, I'll tell you, and as you know, Mark, it's not that straightforward, right? It seems
Right.
like, what's the big deal? You just get on your knee. And then, like, what's the big deal? You just photograph it. Okay. That's, it's not that straightforward for all the reasons I just told you too, even on the lake, right? Like he was like, "Oh, I'll just show up and capture the moment, no big deal." But it's not really like that because you almost have to have a game plan. You have to have your timing down. You have to have really the angles figured out. You've got to figure out how is he turning her? How is he going to know that he's on camera? All of these things. And so each proposal I did, what developed was really kind of like a coaching and advisory with my client because also I was seeing what locations don't work, like what locations in New York just are not good locations to propose, which locations work really well. How do you get the timing just right? So you get that amazing reaction to her. She's like, oh my God, you see her face perfectly, right? How do you make sure like her hair's not in her face? Like all these things that are very, they're little details, but I cared about details. And so I think that that's why people just kept calling me to help them with their proposals. And so from there, it became more than just the photography. And that's how it all began.
Wow, what an amazing story. And I want to backtrack a little bit, but while my mind is fresh with this question, very important question with what you do, you pointed out a few things that are very important, but how do you do this without the other party knowing that they're A, being proposed to, and B, that you're there capturing it? Because I'm sure you have to be like, super, like discreet about everything.
So one of the benefits about so I don't know if you mentioned this at the start, but my business is primarily based in New York City. So we're mainly doing proposals for people in New York City. We do other cities too when clients come through who want to do that, but for the most part, it's in New York City. And one thing about New York City, there's so much going on. There's so many people around. It's very easy as a photographer to blend into the fold because there's so many photographers everywhere. There's street photographers, there's hobby photographers, there's there are professional shoots going on. There's all kinds of things going on. And so it's not out of the ordinary for there to be someone who's just taking pictures of something. And so at this point in my work, we have three amazing photographers that have been like worked under me, who've trained under me, who've learned my method. And basically what they do is they really are just blending into the fold. And then when my client shows up, they're kind of like almost walking into their shot essentially. So it feels natural is the goal. It's the goal is to feel natural. And what you asked before about how do you make sure it's a surprise for your partner? Like how do you keep this from the other party? Well, there's lots of things. I mean, one, it's like number one is managing your own energy. It's like yes, you're excited. Yes, you are have to keep a secret from the person you love the most, and it can feel nerve-wracking, but you really kind of have to ground yourself in that and be like, you know what? This is between the two of us. I'm gonna really keep this a secret as much as I can. The best thing to do personally, I believe, is not to tell too many people. Like sometimes people do involve their families in it, and a lot of people are involved and have to keep the secret. It's harder. It's much more stressful when you do it that way. But if you can, and you don't have to do it that, if you don't have to get family involved, sometimes you have to because of tradition and things like that. But if you don't have to, the least number of people, the better, because then it's just you and her and or whomever, but you can it's a little easier to keep this a secret. Now, the other thing is tons of different decoys you can use to get a person to a particular location. So many different decoys. But also, you need to really own the story. You know, you have to know your story, practice it in your mind, make it real for yourself in your mind, and then just sell it, you know? And it's not that hard to do. Like you can just be like, babe, we've got a work event coming up and we're just gonna go you're on your way to the work event. Oh, babe, I got to stop off somewhere real quick. And then like all this and the proposal happens. Or, we're going to dinner tonight, but oh, you know what? We got 15 minutes to kill. Let's go for a little stroll before the reservation's ready. Like things like that.
So you're not like necessarily going out there and planting mites where you know there's gonna be a proposal. Like I don't know how much video you're actually capturing. Like I
We do
know
video.
you do
Yeah.
video.
Oh, yeah, we do everything. But with video, I'll tell you what, Mark, very rarely do we ever have a client want their speech captured.
Ooh,
Because like you
interesting.
said, it's hard to mic mic that up. And also a lot of men, I feel like it's very, not just men, but men and women feel like it's very private, kind of what they're saying when they're on their knee, and they don't necessarily need that captured. Some people also write a speech and have it in a letter form. But in any case, we don't generally mic people for our videos because people, one, it's again way harder to do that because if you have to wear like a lapel mic, you have to be mic'd before. That's harder to manage when something's a surprise. Planting microphones also seems a little bit, yeah. I mean, if a person wanted it, we could do it for them, but most people don't really ask for that for those reasons. Like it's a lot of logistics.
Well, I'm thankful that that's the trend for my potential future reproposal because I would hate to get in a situation where I say, I don't know, do you wanna part two and have it actually documented. I'm so glad. I mean, it wound up being a very nice night, especially after we went or left the restaurant and we had some champagne and drinks, and it was actually a really lovely night. But I hate the fact that the I don't know, do you wanna is still a thing. So at least, even if I would have known you 9 years ago, that likely would not have gotten captured on audio. Although I am uh, television production major and person, so who knows what I would have concocted. But that's good to know.
Yeah.
So let me rewind a little bit because I too wanted to So as I just mentioned, I was a television production major, and that was like huge passion in my life. And it was, even though I tried a lot of different things along the way, it's like that was basically the thing that I knew that I wanted to do. But again, because it's like a bit unconventional, it's like, I don't know, can I do this? Is it really realistic for me to make it to where I want to go? And I know New York, LA, certain places were high on my list of places that I wanted to be. And to kind of like your point, it's so funny how life kind of figures itself out and you have like a particular vision for your life and it kind of like unfolds in a way that life kind of shows you where you should be. And I feel like something very similar happened to you along the way. And I feel like you kind of already spoke to that, but yeah, I'd be interested in just knowing, what you were going through during that time, and then also just the fact that you became basically an entrepreneur. And I know I never really thought of becoming an entrepreneur. It was something that I have a particular story because I never thought that I would be behind a mic in front of a camera. I always thought my place was like behind the scenes, and there's a story to how I wound up doing all of this. But it's just amazing how life kind of figures itself out like that.
Absolutely. And I give you a lot of credit, Mark, because it's true. It's awesome when you can kind of see yourself as like, wait, I can actually be in front of the scenes. And sometimes I don't know if you ever read the book, is it called The War of Art? I think it is. And it's about how like people sometimes will choose something that's close to what they really want to do, but they won't do the thing that they really want to do because they think that it's that they can't or they're scared or whatever it is. So they'll just do something kind of close to it in the industry, but it won't be the thing that they really wanted. I don't know if you ever heard that one, but
No, I have not heard of that at all. But I will maybe have to catch up with you afterwards. Maybe I'll have to go hunt that down and check it out.
it's a
Um, so tell me a little bit about actually starting like your own business because I know
yeah.
most of us, and I know we're, especially you, you're a little bit different, I think, in the way you were thinking about your life. You were looking for something a little more unconventional. And I
Mhm.
know while my career path is unconventional, it's unusual, there's still like in certain spots of it, which I've been involved with for a long time, that,
Mhm.
there's a structure, is business, and you kind of like know what to expect, and you're not always thinking about becoming like your own boss or an entrepreneur. And I
Yeah.
don't know unless I wanted to start my own like production house, which could still happen. Uh,
Yeah.
it's not something that I was really thinking of doing. I was like, well, I want to be in Hollywood or I want to be in New York or I want to like, you know, pitch a show to a network, which I don't even know if many people do that anymore, believe it or not. But what were you thinking? Was
Yeah.
it hard to like start up a business, especially
Yeah.
back then?
Well, yes. I think like to what you're talking about, Mark, I think that it's really personality types. And I think that some people are more wired for entrepreneurship and working on their own and like almost can't do anything else. And then other people are way more better just working in a structure that's already built. So like with an entrepreneur, you're building your own structure. There's no structure really for you necessarily to follow. And the other way is like there is a structure and there is safety in that structure. So entrepreneurs are usually more comfortable kind of living on the edge in a way. Um, yeah. Like are a little uncomfortable, like are a little bit more comfortable with the discomfort of that. And I think but they're very uncomfortable with the discomfort of working under people, whereas people who generally take the more structured path are generally more comfortable working under people. Like they're willing to take on that discomfort that like entrepreneurs don't want to. So I think I was kind of like that. I think I kind of realized I like working for myself. I read some books about it to some degree. Like I read a photography book that was an amazing book by this guy, Dan Sanders, who I love. And it was about making that decision between being a signature brand photographer and or a freelance photographer. And at the time, I really was like a freelance photographer. But he talked about the signature brand and he basically talked about how yeah, there's very different personalities for each one. Because the freelance, you just someone's telling you where to go, what to do, and you just show up and you shoot. Signature brand, you really have to be an entrepreneur. It's not even anymore just about the photography. And that was kind of what the thing is that yes, I had that personality for sure. But also, I didn't know I was building the business that I was building. It was basically like I followed my intuition. I also followed the market, like what the market was telling me, because you can sometimes have an intuitive feeling, but until like the market shows you, that's kind of how you make your decision. So what ended up happening was, like I said in the very beginning, men were coming to me, mostly men, there's some women too, and they're like, show up and just shoot my proposal, easy peasy, give me the pictures. But what happened was I started telling them, I'm like, listen, you actually need more than this. You actually need me to do a planning call with you because I don't want this to come out badly for you. Like you're choosing some location that's very hard to do. So I'm going to tell you how we're going to do it. And then they were like actually really grateful. And so it became more than that. And then people saw that I did that and they're like, wait, that's awesome because I do need your help in the logistics and the strategy. So I kind of saw that there was a need and then I filled that in. And then the next thing was I started to realize like, people not only do they need help with photography, they need a space. Sometimes people want a private space to propose. And so I started offering all these private spaces and like finding these spaces and making deals with these spaces and like offering spaces that were never even available to the public that aren't available to the public or even weren't even available to like rent for these things. Like I had like arrangements that like, wait, we can use this for a proposal and a person could have a beautiful space to propose. It was kind of like I kind of would see a need but by doing, I learned that. And then like some people wouldn't even have any interest in that, but like that that scratches an itch for me, like seeing how I can be helpful, seeing how I can make things more efficient for people, seeing how I can create a better experience. And then at some point, I realized, people kind of want decorations for these proposals. So maybe we can, sometimes people want a bottle of champagne. They want a musician playing their favorite songs. They might want videography. Mark, I just need a tissue. Do you mind? 1 second.
Yeah, no, we can pause
Oh,
right here,
sorry. 1 second.
or I can actually just keep on talking while Ash goes ahead. Ash also has a podcast called the Proposal Podcast with Ashbox, and I'll read the description. I feel like, oh, she came right back. Well, it's an advertisement
Thank you.
within the episode here. So, want to propose but have no idea where to start? Need help buying a ring? Figuring out a proposal budget? Need clarity on whether or not to propose? The Proposal Podcast, the first ever podcast on getting engaged, is for you. And Ash is now back. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mark. I love that commercial. While I had my tissue, I have allergies. So thank you for that. That's awesome. Yeah, the proposal podcast, it's been a little bit on hiatus. I'm going to bring it back, but really great resource. If you're looking for free information on proposing, like really in depth, like timing, where to start, how to figure out what she might like, what your partner might like, all kinds of things like about buying rings, really everything, like proposing on birthdays, proposing in holiday season, pretty much everything you could possibly imagine around proposals. I've made an episode for it. So it's a great free resource to go listen to. I also have some interviews on there too, but it's mostly solos with me.
So not only do you have like a ton of passion for what you're doing, but I really appreciate like the science. I don't even know if the word science has
Yeah.
ever entered your mind with this, but there's like a real science and a real method to what you're doing, and you've basically come up with it all on your own. I mean, obviously you've had help with the proposers and things like that, and just, the situations you've been in. But I really admire just the evolution of your business. Do you have any like bigger, like higher end ideas, lower end ideas of how to evolve and grow? Do you want to like grow it, or just you can take grow however you want to take that, I guess. Maybe I'll just let you speak to that. What
Yeah.
what's your vision for the future?
Thank you, Mark. I'm happy to share it with you. Well, I'll also just finish what I was telling you before I had my tissue break, but basically a big part of entrepreneurship that one thing I just want to share is like I was a solopreneur for so long, and probably longer than I should have been because I didn't even know where to start getting help, honestly. I didn't know that I could get help. I didn't know help existed. I didn't know how to do it. And it really took me kind of hitting another rock bottom moment, honestly, with myself, because that happens in business and that happens in life. And it was right after COVID, I had this burnout moment. And I just was like, what am I gonna I don't know if I can go on from here doing things the way I've been doing it all on my own because it's affecting my personal life. Like I don't really have a personal life. I'm working nights and weekends constantly. I am entirely consumed by this. I'm kind of like a workaholic. I love it, but there's no boundaries like with like my own life. And so that is when I sought advisory. Thankfully there's amazing consultants and coaches and people out there who you can talk to. Um, and I found someone really great and we talked a lot about it. And so I decided that January it was time to start building my team. And I already had people that worked for me that were assistants and things like this, but it was kind of like upping the ante with them and really like being like, wait, we can take this to a whole other level. And now I have amazing support in my business and I have like really amazing people who have the same ethos as me, which is artistry, quality, and love. Like we really care about that in my business. And so I feel very thankful and grateful to have those people. But yeah, it was and yeah, training people and writing SOPs, system of operations, and figuring things out. Like this was a whole new ball game for me that I've really been learning about the past 4 years and have implemented over the past 4 years. But before that, most of those years, that like 10, 11, 12 years, I was all on my own. So yeah, it's been really cool. So anyway, my vision. So that was kind of the next iteration. Like you said, like that was my next vision was like having support and being able to serve more people and also being able to be in my zone of genius a little bit more, which I had to actually have a hard reckoning with myself, Mark, but what it actually doesn't make sense for me to photograph all the proposals at this point. It just doesn't because I can really help my clients from all over the world here just like we are and talk and then my team who's trained, who know how to shoot like me, who are amazing, like they can be on site and do it. So then we can help more people. And so that was like the next thing. But my vision, even going forward, yes, it is to grow. It is to help people in other places too. It is to be able to, I do have clients every now and then, like a VIP client who comes in and is like, Ash, I just want more with you. Like I want even more just directly with you. And so like I do have services for that. Had a client, he's like a NFL player, and I went out to LA for his proposal and we did everything because he just wanted to be hands-on with me and that's totally cool too. And that allows us to go other places. We do proposals in other places. We've done like California and like wineries and plan this year for Paris and Rome. So yeah, that's on my agenda. I also haven't shared this yet, but I'm in the works, I'm planning live workshops to help new photographers or hobby photographers or people in the beginning of their career like learn how to shoot love the way I shoot it and do it in New York because New York's such a crazy place to photograph. And I'm planning on doing my first one this year. We were supposed to do it last year, but some things got in the way. So I'm excited to start doing my live workshops. So that's something I'm very excited about.
That's amazing. I think you have a lot of really great things going for you and lots of really awesome goals. And I love what you're doing. It's such a cool idea. And I also want to note that I too am like more or less a solopreneur, although I always tell my wife, even though she's extremely hands off, I say, you're like the executive producer, you're like basically, second in charge, even though you're basically not involved. And I love having her support, but yeah, getting like other support and other people involved with you, wonderful thing, but it is a little, at least for me, it's still a little hard to come by like getting the right fit and everything. And yeah, I can totally understand that mindset. Just, as an entrepreneur, you think that you should be hands-on with everything, but I know that there are certain things that I'm not an expert on, like SEO and, just other things. I'm very good, but I can't do it all. So if you can find people that can fill the gaps and help you to grow, that goes a long way.
I agree for sure.
And sadly, I feel like we're coming up on the end of our time here. So I am now going to give you an opportunity to just tell everybody how they can find you, how they can work with you, and anything else that you might want to add.
Oh, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Thank you for asking such great questions and having me here today and your time. So the first place is Ash Fox Proposals on Instagram. That's a great place to follow for beautiful, just inspiration, like inspirational proposals and look at beautiful pictures and videos. And also, if you do want to reach out to me on there, feel free to hit me up in the DMs. If you are planning a proposal, happy to help you. If you're planning a proposal really anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, I do one-to-one sessions with people. So feel free to reach out if you want to do one of those, either on Instagram or on my website. And if you are planning to propose in the New York region, we do full service proposal planning, everything from photography, videography, private venues, really everything you could possibly need, one-stop shop. So you can just show up and propose. So yeah, and then there's the proposal podcast, as you mentioned, great place to just get free advice. Some really fun episodes on there, and TikTok, Ashfox Proposals, and my website, ashfoxproposals.com.
Awesome. And again, I just want to emphasize if you are out there and you're proposing, just don't use the line, I don't know. Do you wanna? Like it will be a topic of conversation for the rest of your life with your significant other. But Ashbox, thank you so much for being on Mark My Words today. I had a blast. This was an amazing conversation. I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I wish you all the best in the future with everything. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was an honor.
I appreciate that. And speaking of Mark, I am Mark Schmidt. I am always terrible at actually introducing myself until the end of the episode. You just listen to Mark My Words with my guest Ash Fox, and I'm Mark Schmidt. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you soon with another episode. Bye for now. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.